Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum and Stay Curious here with Mr. Lowell George, brother of Lowell Grissom, brother of Gus Grissom, of course. Lowell George was a guitarist for a group called Little Feat.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
No problem.
Mr. Grissom just walked in the museum. We had to talk to him a little bit today and share this with you. So, I've met you several times. It's my honor to meet you and have you here. We did a Stay Curious episode 2 years ago.
Correct.
When you were here.
Right.
So you come always here, try to, at the end of January to honor your brother through the Astronaut Memorial Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that, Lowell.
Well, I got involved with the Astronaut Memorial Foundation actually from the very start, and have been on the board, and now I'm an advisor, and it's been a very good organization that supported not only the Apollo astronauts, but all of those that have given their all for the space program and for America.
And we would know them, Joe and Jane America and Space Geek, as the astronaut mirror out there is what the Astronaut Memorial Foundation
Right.
is. Sort of the symbol
Right.
of that is the mirror out there.
Yes.
And tell people about that mirror if you can.
Well, the mirror has not only the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts that lost their lives, but also those astronauts that were in the program, and actually some of them were assigned missions that actually lost their lives in space aircraft crashes.
Yes, there's several people. Of course, the Challenger, Columbia astronauts. You got several of the other ones up there. I'm so excited to have him here, and as you can see, I'm trying to collect my thoughts. But
and the last one, actually, we have the last one from a Virgin Galactic. So we have a commercial.
Yes, you do. Yes, I forget that gentleman's name that lost his life in the Virgin Galactic space plane incident there.
Something.
Yeah. But astronauts are involved in it. Other people, NASA people and contractors have been involved in the Memorial Foundation. Now, your brother was also involved in founding the Scholarship Foundation.
Yes, that's correct.
And
actually, it was actually started after he was gone, and Betty, his wife, was involved with it, with the other 6 astronauts.
And that Scholarship Foundation gives millions of dollars in scholarships away. So does Memorial Foundation, too, for that matter, right?
Right.
In there. So it's 57 years since this tragic day, and we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about how we celebrate it here. And you're here for what kind of celebration, Lowell?
Well, we had the Day of Remembrance yesterday. Was not only covered the Apollo crew, but also Challenger and Columbia and the other astronauts that have lost their lives. So they try to remember all of them that served.
Yes, haven't seen any pictures of that. That's an annual event out there. They put flowers on the gate there in front of the mirror.
They also have a Day of Remembrance at Arlington.
Okay.
At the same time.
Oh, great. How was it yesterday?
The AMF does a fantastic job with the celebrating those lives of those.
Any celebrities of note out there besides you?
Well, I can't say there were any celebrities there, but
so that's where Bob Cabana was there. Was Bob there?
And well, I don't know. I didn't see him if he was.
Okay. Well, not putting you on the spot about that, but yes, this is. They call it NASA's darkest week, but Lowell, we've always tried to take the positive side of everything, and we had an excellent program on Stay Curious by Nick Thomas, the astronaut wrangler at Kennedy Space Center, talking about the family side of the Apollo astronauts, and we had Gary Allgaier talk about, for the first time on our Little Stay Curious podcast, about some of the pieces and parts that he felt contributed to this. But people can read all stuff about that. It's 50 years away. But what would you like to share with people about to get to know your brother, Gus Grissom? What would be something good resources or books to read?
Well, there were several books written, and the first one that came out was written by the Baptist preacher that lived behind my mom and dad's house at the church right there.
Oh, wow.
And, his name is Carl Chappell, and the name of the book is 7-1.
Huh.
And that was written shortly after the accident, and very good book. The most recent one was written by George. All at once I lost his last name, but the title of the book is "Calculated Risk: The Supersonic Life and Times of Gus Grissom," and it's a more up-to-date book. It tells about our family and a lot about Gus and a lot about the programs that he was involved in. So if you want to know about Gus, I'd recommend that one.
Calculated Risk. I certainly will be looking that up, as I know many of you will in there. Speak a little bit about where you and your brother grew up. I forget how many were in your family, but that home is preserved and is sort of a mecca for space geeks down in southern Indiana, correct?
Yes, their mom and dad's home. They've made it into a little museum, and it's in Mitchell, Indiana.
Mitchell, Indiana,
And,
down the road from where a statue of Larry Bird is, I understand.
Yeah.
In French Lick, correct?
Yeah, not too far from French Lick, but
basketball star Larry Bird for you space geeks out there, okay?
and it's a little town. My dad worked 47 years for the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad as a maintenance supervisor. And we all went to, I have, Gus was the oldest in the family. Norman was my other brother, and I had a sister, Wilma. Unfortunately, both have passed away, but we all went to Mitchell High School, and Gus actually wasn't that good a student in Mitchell High School, but Norman was the brightest. My mom always said it's too bad that he didn't get to go to college because he was smarter than me or Gus.
What'd Norman do for a living?
He owned a local newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Had a newspaper for several years. And when I went to high school, I was the jock of the family. I was believe it or not, I was the captain and quarterback of the Mitchell High School football team.
Well, I do believe that. What was their nickname?
The Blue Jackets.
The Blue Jackets, okay. And you look great, Lowell. And he is 90 years old, folks. And
you wouldn't have to say that.
Well, I'm bragging on you there.
Yeah, okay.
You look awesome there. Apologize if that puts you on the spot there, but no, it's you told me when I saw you here an hour ago, so
can't hide it. So.
No, you can't, but keeping this legacy alive is why you're here. Is there one thing that sticks out to you that people ask a lot about your brother?
Well, I get asked a lot about just how was he interested in this and how did this all happen? And he always wanted to fly, and that was his main goal. He went into the Army Air Force back at the end of World War II, and when the war ended, he was discharged before he got to actually get into cadet. He was in cadets, but before he actually got to fly. So when he got out, he took a job at Carpenter Body Works, building buses, school buses, and decided pretty quickly that wasn't what he wanted to do. So with his wife, he was married at the time, they decided that he was going to go to Purdue, and actually his registration and all, they were about to turn him down because of his grades in high school, and because he's a veteran, they finally let him in. So he did graduate from Purdue with a mechanical engineering degree and immediately went into the Air Force again. And of course, it's kind of history from that point.
Absolutely, history from there. Part of history is a lot of people, including Deke Slayton in his book. One of his sons I talked to, your brother had a good chance of being the first man on the moon.
That's what a lot of people believe, and Gusman and Mr.
Deke, Slade?
Deke,
Yeah.
Deke were good buddies. So I think that might have had a lot to do with it too, as well as Gus was a great engineer. He had a lot to do with development of Gemini and Apollo, not so much as Apollo, but a tremendous amount to do with Gemini, to the point that the other astronauts called it the Gus Mobile.
You were wearing a T-shirt, Gus Mobile, last time we saw you
That's true.
2 years ago in here. We missed you last year, but we're so happy that you're here to honor not just your brother, but the other Apollo astronauts and all the fallen heroes here. As we end this conversation with you, here's there something you'd like to say to people that have followed your brother and this legacy for half a decade, and people under 40, of course, really don't know much about it because they didn't live it like we did.
Well, I've tried to do whatever I could to honor Gus's memory, and I hope people will care and remember him.
Well, this is part of it. God bless you, sir, for being here, and it's an honor
Thanks for having
to talk to you. You're very welcome. How about a comment about our humble little museum here?
Oh, I think your humble museum is fabulous. It's unbelievable. Anybody that is close to this place should not hesitate to be here.
Well, we appreciate that, and you got some friends here, and we're going to visit with them. So, thank you again, Mr. Lowell Grissom, for being here on Stay Curious, and we hope that you enjoy your stay here. You live in St. Louis, so
Right.
Go Cardinals.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us here to have a little extra talk with a friend of Lowell Grissom. That is Earl Mullins here. Earl, welcome to Stay Curious.
Well, thank you, Mark.
You walked in
You had
this
to read
morning.
my shirt, didn't you?
I read your shirt there, that you're with the Space Museum in
Bonne Terre, Missouri.
Bonne Terre.
Yeah, French for good earth.
Good Earth. And so you're here with Mr. Lowell Grissom, brother, of course, of Gus. We just talked to him a little bit here. We're putting you at the end of that interview. Thanks you for coming here. I met you before. You got a great little museum. Tell people where to find it and things you have there, Earl.
Well, first thing I'd like to say, Mark, is thanks for giving me for the opportunity. And you have a wonderful museum here. I mean, history lives here.
Thank you.
And it is phenomenal. We're a bit jealous in Missouri because you're down here on the Space Coast and you have an opportunity, a great access to a lot of the individuals that we would love to have access to. And you have marvelous exhibits in the museum. We're so tickled about that. But yes, I do represent the Space Museum, and now we call it the Grissom Center. We opened our annex, the Grissom Center, about 5 years ago, rightfully devoted to the Grissom family because Lowell has been a friend of mine for about 20 years, and he has opened so many doors for us. Before, you know how important networking is, right? And before you can really network, you have to develop some credibility. Well, Lowell has lent that credibility to our museum. There's not many people who are a student of history that doesn't know something about Grissoms, the Grissom family, and Gus, and the fact that he was our second American astronaut. So I have a funny little story, if you'll permit me. When I first met Lowell, I met him in St. Louis. They had recovered Liberty Bell, and it was going on a world tour. And the first stop was at the St. Louis Science Center in St. Louis. So I went there and I met him, didn't know him at the time. I was planning the museum. I hadn't even started it at that point, but I thought, man, this guy would be a great keynote speaker. So I asked him, I said, Lowell, I'm starting a museum. And he said, okay, great. He said, first of all, he said, where's Bonne Terre, Missouri? And he didn't know where Bonne Terre was at. And then he said, there's no money in it. Well, he's right. There's still no money in it, but now he knows where Bonne Terre, Missouri is at. So our museum is in Bonne Terre, Missouri, where you guys have the Space Coast. We are close to St. Louis, which was the home or kind of cradle of space aviation with McDonnell Douglas Corporation. Built the Mercury capsules, Gemini capsule, actually built the S-4B for Saturn V, and then later the OMS pods for the shuttle. So we have a lot of individuals in our area, not so much like you guys. We have some of the early guys from spaceflight, which I guess you do too. So we would encourage you to come. It's at 118 East School Street, Bonne Terre, Missouri. You will be impressed, I hope. If you're not, don't say anything. And,
Yeah, right.
You can catch us at our website, space-mo.org, and check us out on Facebook. And I've talked way too much, but anyway.
No, Earl, that's why you're here. We want to promote you as another nonprofit that's out there promoting space. It's no secret to you and me that we know how you get $1 million in a nonprofit bank. You start out with $2 million.
Right, exactly. That's exactly correct.
And
It's a struggle, and it takes a huge art, and more than anything, art, passion, and persistence to make it work.
And there's so many nonprofits in every community that are worthy of,
Absolutely.
But it's usually tax deductible donations
Sure.
and so
Yeah,
forth.
absolutely.
We're just out there to get our share to promote, our little niche of the woods here, which is promoting the birth of the space age in its delivery room, Brevard County.
Well, you know what? It's not only about history either. It's about inspiration, or at least that's one of the things that we've learned at the museum. It is about inspiration, about encouraging people. Well, I like to say this. Our museum is about history, obviously, and it's about the technology, but it's also about a way of thinking. It is about thinking big,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing your obstacles and overcoming those, and then doing great things for all humankind. And so that's what we're about. We're about inspiring our future. And spaceflight is not just about rockets and rocket jockeys. There are so many venues that it touches now, physics and chemistry and mechanics, and even the guys out there that build these rockets, the machinists, and all of these people are involved in a family that makes this happen. And spaceflight encourages the economy. It's actually probably one of the best encouragers of our economy that there is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize that, don't understand. And all of this filters down to us every day in spinoffs. We use hundreds of articles every day we don't even think about that
Mm-hmm.
came as a result of the space program. So that's what we're about, encouraging the new future. And that's what space is.
Let alone the eyes of the world looking at our country
Oh,
as a
absolutely.
leader and so forth. And we can't let that fall away. We can't be, we have to be pioneers in science and in industry.
We have been for years and years and years. And unfortunately, I think there's a group of people coming on now that like to even the playing field. But I hate to tell you this, human nature says there will always be a first guy and there will always be a last guy, regardless of what you try to do. And if there has to be a first guy in space, I just assume it be the United States.
There you go.
Because we have because we are, whether you like us or hate us, we're still the most benevolent, most innovative, and really can be friendly country in the world.
That's absolutely right. And look at, we're the melting pot we've become
We are.
of the world. Of
We
all
are.
ethnics, all religions, all philosophies are found here in America because we're the land of the free and freedom of speech. You're here for a very important memorial. Can you believe that it attracts such attention 57 years later, the tragedy of Apollo 1. I'll be seeing you Saturday on a public bus tour that filled up real quick.
Oh, you're going to be there? Wonderful. Yeah, great.
But it's just 57 years later, we're never going to forget, Earl.
No, and we shouldn't forget. And we hope that we never forget. And thank goodness for people like you who go public and keep the memory alive. Because we have to understand, we take space flight somewhat commonplace now.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't. It still takes some real genius and some real guts. But these guys, when they were first beginning, Gus especially, he was in the first Mercury 7, they were making it up as they went along.
Absolutely.
They had no idea what they were getting into. Like the McDonnell Douglas engineers said, we solved 100 unsolvable problems every day. They didn't have the technology. Well, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all of these guys, Bigelow Aerospace, SpaceX, Blue Origin, all these guys are making a huge impact today. But guess what? If it weren't for the original guys willing to take the risk and put their lives on the line, they'd have nothing today. they'd be starting from scratch, and they are definitely not starting from scratch.
And the each just baby steps along the way. We have to learn certain technologies, and that's where we had a Mercury, then a Gemini program, and then the Apollo took it to the next level. What do you feel people in your museum are interested in hearing about? What's
Oh, it's the backstories. They love the artifacts and etc. But if you can give them a good backstory that they wouldn't normally hear in media, on the news program, oh, they love that, and because it really it invests them in the history, right? For instance, I'll give you a real quick one here. I think Bill Pogue visited our museum. He was a member of one of the Skylab crews, and he told me we have, I think we're kind of I don't know, impressed with fecal containment and stuff at the museum, and talk about how to use a bathroom and space. We're kind of obsessed with that, and so we have a couple of displays about that. And he said, I want to tell you, he said, when we returned to Earth from our Skylab mission, he said we were less afraid of burning up in the atmosphere than we were of the 385 fecal bags on board getting loose in the cabin. So those are the kind of stories that people like to hear.
Yeah.
And you only hear those from interfacing with the people who have actually been there. But it makes it real to them. Then.
Absolutely.
This isn't make-believe.
Right.
This isn't a fairy story. This all really happened.
Well, and these astronauts weren't robots. They were not cyborgs. They were human beings with families and friends, and wondering how they're going to make their house payment and things like that.
Absolutely. And they had their foibles just like everybody else, but they were able to overcome all of that, and do something magnificent.
Special training. What are you looking for in the future here in your Grissom Museum?
We are looking to expand. We have so much in storage. There are so many stories that we would like to tell, and we can't because we just don't have the room. But we are currently working on a program, and I really don't feel at liberty really to discuss it completely right now over the internet because it's
Liberty. Is that a pun about?
Maybe.
Grissom's a Liberty ship.
Well, we don't want to. I guess we don't want to jinx it. We don't want
to say things.
We don't want to build it up to the point and then everybody be disappointed, including not the least of us. But we're working on a program right now that could potentially put us in a $20 million facility.
Wow. Well,
now, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a roll of the dice. That's all I can say. It would give us the room we need, plus it will be located on a university campus, which what better place for a museum like this, right? And
that'd be awesome.
But we don't know. But if it doesn't happen, you know what? We'll just continue to tell the story best we can. And I don't know of anybody that I've talked to that has ever visited here or our place that have ever been disappointed. Ever.
I agree. Nobody's asked for their money back
ever.
And we're going to build a better bridge to you. We've met before, and as we're sunk our teeth into what we're doing here, makes it logical that our museums we can share what you're doing there.
Is it
and
Karan?
Help you along the way. Karan Conklin, our executive director.
So Karan and I were talking a while ago. The beautiful thing about museums like this, you don't have what we have, and we don't have what you have. So guess what? That makes you guys out there have to go around to all of us.
That's right.
And which is a wonderful thing. And I don't know if you know it or not, but it's a secret museum plot to get you guys interested so that you visit all of our different locations, put the pieces together, because we are really a family. We really are.
We really are. There's a lot of, and that's what we love about our museum is we've become a hub for a lot of space geeks here, the launches. We see people from Europe that will regularly become our friends and stuff like that. But around St. Louis is a great hub of aerospace engineers, aviation engineers, regular workers out there with the McDonnell Douglas Corporation. Of course, McDonnell just in the early days in there.
Now it's Boeing.
And now you're continuing that legacy there with there. So appreciate you dropping by, Earl, to share this a little bit here. Enjoy your stay here on the Space Coast.
Mark.
You got some nice shorts on today.
Oh, man, I love it. Monday At home, it was 1 degree. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, 1 degree.
Well, we appreciate you being here and taking your time. And anything else you'd like to say about Mr. Lowell Grissom?
No, he's one of the finest men I've ever met. He's a very humble individual. He really gets annoyed with me whenever I introduce him to people as to who he is. But we've coined a phrase around the museum called space royalty. And you don't necessarily have to fly in space to be a part of that space royalty. We consider you space royalty.
No.
Anybody that has had, especially the technicians and the engineers and the machinists, all those guys that behind the scenes that never got the recognition, we're trying to get them the recognition. They're space royalty.
Exactly.
And Lowell is space royalty. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry, buddy, you kind of belong to the public.
He does, and he does it well. And we enjoyed his interview with him here, sitting him down on the spot, what he shared with us. We call our space workers national treasures.
Absolutely. Oh, perfect.
Because they have done things that no other job segment of society has done.
Yeah.
And that's help uncrewed and crewed spaceships leave Earth.
Absolutely.
And
one last thing I would like to say. I know I talk too much. Everybody calls me the P.T. Barnum. Matter of fact, Charlie.
We'll flip a coin for that. Okay.
So Charlie Walker's a good friend of ours.
Oh yeah, Charlie's going to be here next week.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's at the Space Center.
Yeah,
already talked to Charlie about taking him out to dinner.
Charlie is a great friend of ours.
3 flights, the first true company astronaut.
He calls me the Reverend of what's happening up there.
Oh, does he?
Because he says you get a little preachy, and I said, well, okay, Charlie, I'll accept that. But one last thing I would say is this. You never know who you're going to see or who you're going to meet when you visit our museums. So if you want a real treat and a real surprise, you might want to drop by occasionally.
There you go.
And you never know who you're going to meet.
Just like I came into work today, and Karen's calling me as I'm pulling in the drive and said, Lowell Grissom's here with his posse and his entourage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought Earl would be with him and so forth like that.
And Dan Green.
Yes, great conversation with Dan Green, one of the executives for McDonald, and his son, Kent. Yeah, Kent.
Who is a
senior
designer at Boeing.
Yeah.
Currently, he works on the military side. So, guys, no trolling. He had nothing to do with the door that blew out.
That's right. Okay.
So anyway.
Yeah, Boeing's a touchy subject these days. We wish
them
them well, but they certainly have got some work cut out for them.
Yes, they do. Listen, they're a great company, and because they are great and because they are large, accidents happen.
That's right.
Things happen. Humans are not perfect. You can try all you can want to make things perfect. Things just happen.
We had this horrible accident 57 years ago, and it resulted in really the Apollo 13 coming back alive. Had they not done a lot of things to that ship,
absolutely,
like wiring that was waterproof and stuff like that.
Correct.
And put 12 humans on the moon, 28 orbiting. That's not been done in 51 years, 51 and a half years.
Exactly.
They keep trying, but it's not easy. It's hard, and our museums represent the artifacts of that. So, Earl Mullins, thank you so much for taking the time to stay curious.
Appreciate you.
I want to tell everybody out there that we're very grateful for you watching our program today. And thank you for Bruce Jacobs for stringing these interviews together that we did on the fly with you all coming in during the celebration or the observances of our astronaut heroes. So until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.
See ya.